Good evening and good afternoon. I'm meteorologist Patrick Fitzgerald with yet another update on Typhoon Bavi. Typhoon Bavi has rapidly intensified into a Category 2 typhoon with now maximum sustained winds of 90 knots or 105 miles per hour and a minimal central pressure of 970 millibars. As we look at our imagery here, you can see that we have a very well-defined eye feature beginning to develop. We have a little bit of a raggedy eye wall in terms of the convection structure, and we can take a look at it with the microwave imagery. It does look a little bit ragged in terms of that rapid convection, and you can see a little bit on the northwest side that we are dealing with a maybe slight dry air intrusion. Maybe just a little bit of shear, although that shear is going to drop down considerably with time, and we'll show that here a little bit later. Regardless, a very healthy structure with the system right now, and you can see that eye beginning to really develop there, as well as the strong westerly VHTs that continue to wrap up shear and rotate with this system. Now, most model projections right now continue, and I want to stress here, continue to bring this up to a really high intensity. Most of these bring these up comfortably into Category 4 range, but now compared to the last several updates that we've talked about here and briefed upon, you can see that we have more members bringing this into the Category 5 intensity range, which starts at 140 knots. Regardless, it's still a super typhoon, so that's pretty much what we're dealing with right now, and the JTWC explicitly forecasts now a Category 5. They pretty much fully expect this to reach Category 5 before the islands, and could be even stronger than 140 knots, could even get upwards to 150 knots, which would be 175 miles per hour, which could really pose a very dangerous situation for those islands. Regardless if it doesn't even go directly over land, there is still going to be some very serious typhoon related impacts, which will likely be very intense winds, especially on the most intense sides of the eye wall. You're going to obviously have the heavy rainfall, you're going to have storm surge, you're also going to have dangerous mudslides, landslides, you're going to have basically all that in between, including the very considerable, potentially even catastrophic flooding, especially where the most heaviest rain bands go over. So I want to stress that even if this does not go directly over land, serious to really intense impacts are looking increasingly likely for the islands wherever this passes closest to over those islands. Now, we'll go back to the projections here just to stress here. All of these ensembles are just projections of what this could get to in terms of future intensity, but the general consensus is that this is going to be quite the formidable super typhoon by the time this does reach the islands. We'll take a look at some model guidance here from the hurricane models. You can see that the general consensus is through this weekend and into next week, we are going to see some pretty significant rapid intensification of the system and could really get down there in terms of pressure. Now, I do want to stress here as well that there is likely also going to be, in the latter half of this system's lifespan, there is likely going to be some internal fluctuations to its structure in the form of eye wall replacement cycles, and these hurricane models do actually do really good with modeling eye wall replacement cycles, although you can't really say for sure that an eye wall replacement cycle is going to happen at this specific time this far out. Typically, in the most powerful of hurricanes, typhoons across the world, you typically are going to see an eye wall replacement cycle or two eventually in its lifespan. So you can see that with the increasing size, eventually once this passes through the islands, it's going to get a little bit larger, which is going to increase the outer expansion of the typhoon hazards. And that shows the same with the HAFS-A from the HWRF, although the HAFS-A is much more intense in terms of its solution and could get really, really intense as it passes through the islands down into even the low 900s in terms of pressure, which would be very, very intense for these islands, especially where it passes near through, as there could be some very, very intense typhoon gusts spreading outwards toward these islands, especially where the closest of the core passes through. Regardless, though, it does appear that for right now at least, most of the model projections are taking this away a good distance from a more direct landfall from any particular land masses, but impacts are still going to be likely regardless of if this makes direct landfall or not. Another imagery I want to show you will show a little bit more close-up imagery on visible. You can kind of see that northwesterly dry air slot that I was talking about that's kind of creeping its way into the core, but you can also kind of see how the convection is continuing to wrap up shear and try to mix out that dry air slot, which is what it looks like it's doing, especially off of going back to the IR imagery. But that's going to continue for the next several hours and will likely mix out that dry air slot. Might obviously have a brief disruption or two with its overall structure, but should mix that out, and by the time we get over the next several hours, it's probably going to look a little bit more improved in terms of structure. It may look a little bit ragged with the convection bands, but still very healthy structure and likely is rapidly intensifying right now regardless, as it has jumped a considerable amount of intensity since the last time we actually spoke about the system. And then for the environment, like I said, I'm going to keep stressing it here, is extremely conducive for this to become a really powerful super typhoon, especially if some of these hurricane model projections do come to fruition. It does have the environment to do that. You can see over the next several days, shear is going to drop considerably down into the 5 or maybe even a little bit lower than 5 knots. And obviously you have very high relative humidity, given that we're going to be entering a more warmer and as well as more humid air mass, especially with the more warmer, even extreme sea surface temperatures in the 31 or 32 degrees Celsius range, which you check off all the check boxes here with the most upper echelon of typhoons and super typhoons, the ones that get really intense, and pretty much all of these conditions do check off those boxes. So we're going to be dealing with quite the powerful typhoon for the next several days, expecting some very serious impacts for the northern Mariana Islands as well as northern portions of Guam. Thankfully, this does look like it will pass comfortably north of Guam, although I am still going to be expecting some sort of impacts for Guam, regardless if it's heavy rainfall, maybe even dangerous seas, dangerous surf, maybe even a little bit of storm surge, especially on the southern side. But regardless, impacts are likely for the Mariana Islands and Guam in some shape or form, and you need to prepare now for the arrival of this storm. You have a little bit of time to prepare, although I would get definitely your hurricane preparedness plan. Make sure you know where to evacuate to a higher ground. Make sure you know where the best place to go is in the event that this does near through. Make sure you have essential supplies such as food, water, clothing, medical supplies. Make sure to definitely also have a hand cranked operated or battery powered radio so you can get all the latest information from your local federal government, your local National Weather Service, as well as your local meteorological agency. I know NWS Guam is going to be probably talking about this system a lot, and I'm going to continue to also brief on this system as well with several more video updates to come. I'm not really going to be doing a live stream of sorts, but I am going to definitely keep the video content up as well. So I'm going to have another update once again in the next couple of hours here with Bavi, and I am going to be probably expecting to wake up to a little bit more of a stronger system. We'll see how this goes overnight. I'll take a look at some of the models and some of the projections overnight, and then I'll come back to update y'all on the latest information that is coming out with Typhoon Bavi. But until then, make sure to stay tuned to my channel. I'll link all my socials. I'll be keeping coverage on the system for quite a while, until pretty much the end of its lifespan, so definitely make sure to keep track of my socials. All of those tags and handles will be down in the description of this update video below. But thanks for watching. Thanks for keeping posted to my videos. Make sure to stay safe if you are within the northern Mariana Islands as well as Guam, and make sure to stay tuned to my channel for more updates on Typhoon Bavi. Thanks for watching.